and welcome to the Over 40s Fitness Podcast. My name is Tristan Lowe, and today, first day in September, so it's the 1st of September 2023, and we're going to look at some more of my chosen reading, the books that I keep in my own personal library for all things health and fitness. Today, we're going to look at this book. Okay, and this is the Complete Conditioning for Basketball, put together by Gregg Brittenham, who was a kinesiologist of some description and also the strength and conditioning coach for the basketball NBA team, the world famous New York Knicks. And I think the New York Knicks are to basketball what Arsenal are to football. They're a city centre team based at Madison Square Garden in New York, in Manhattan, and of course they're world famous, like the Chicago Bulls and LA Lakers. So if you're the strength and conditioning coach in the 90s for the New York Knicks, you know your stuff. So here's the book that I got. I think I got this book about, crikey, at least 15 years ago. It was first published, I think, in 1996. And essentially the book explains how to train and get your body in the best condition possible to play the sport of basketball. Whether that be at a professional level, amateur level, or just a weekend shoot around. Fun fact, I played basketball, not professionally, just for fun. I played in a local team in my late 20s to early 30s. Stopped playing in 2001. I got patella tendonitis, in other words, like a jumper's knee. And if anyone who's played basketball, when you get knee injuries and you go back the following season, it's never the same. So I stepped away from basketball, age 31, and played it quite a lot. Played it for my local team in Nottinghamshire, in the Nottinghamshire and Yorkshire leagues. We had a great team, a mishmash of guards, point guards, centres, and fast people, slow people, tall people, short people. But it was great. We had a good team, and I switched. I grew to 6'4". Between the age of 24 and 28, I had a third growth spurt, and I put on 2 inches in my mid to late 20s. So went into basketball and enjoyed it. And of course, playing the game and understanding the principles of the game and how physical a sport of basketball is. It's a team sport, but once you're moving on your own, or with or without the ball, your body is completely dependent on itself. Much like a golfer or a boxer, like a footballer. You're part of a team, but what you do with your body is down to yourself. Okay, so unlike a boxer, where they're responsible for their own movement, but they're also responsible for the movement in a combat sport with their opponent. So there you go, The Complete Conditioning for Basketball by Gregg Brittenham, and it was put together by Kinetics Books in the USA, and there's the back of the book here. It's actually got, if you look at the front, a foreword by the great Patrick Ewing, who was the Hall of Fame centre for the New York Knicks. Patrick Ewing was the Jamaican American. I think he was about 6'11", maybe even 7 feet, and he was a fearsome centre. He played underneath the net, in the paint, as they say in America, in the NBA, and he was part of one of my favourite all-time teams, the mid 90s to early 2000s New York Knicks teams. And if you look at the front there is the super athlete at the time, Allen Houston, who was a guard for the New York Knicks. And I think the New York Knicks went to the NBA final. I think it was possibly 2000 or 2001, where they faced down the famous LA Lakers, and I think they got swept 4-0, or at least 4-1. But now this book here, if you look inside, you've got a lot of pictures there, and there's some great articles about how to condition your body. And looking at the index, we've got fitness for basketball. We've got flexibility, strength and conditioning, abdominal and lower back training. There you go. There. Okay, if you can see that. And training for basketball fitness. And of course, we've got individual drills, team drills, basketball conditioning, and using basketball conditioning drills for overall fitness. Now, the book itself has got best part of 240 pages, and it's even got diagrams that some of the best coaches in the world will use for the plays for how to move around the court individually or as part of a team. Now, I imagine some of the top coaches in the world will have not only known of Gregg Brittenham, but they would have also looked at some of his plays, some of his drills. Quite often in the NBA, like many team sports, it's the coach, the head coach. And I think at the time, the head coach, I don't know, it could have been Pat Riley, who was at the New York Knicks, and equally he went on to work with the LA Lakers and the Miami Heat. It could have been Jeff Van Gundy, I don't recall, but the New York Knicks have gone through some very, very good coaches. And of course, behind every good coach is always a good back team, a good staff, you know, a back office, if you will, of strength and conditioning coaches, nutritionists, dietitians, sports massage therapists, you know, physiotherapists, kinesiologists. It is one big moving part, the NBA. Now, bearing in mind, in that league, the regular season is 82 games. So even if you don't make it to the playoffs, you know, the playoffs, the quarterfinals, the first round, second round, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then the final, even if you don't make it in the NBA to that stage, which I think is around June through to the end of July, you're still in a team that is travelling city to city, state to state for 82 games in a regular season. Now, to give you an idea, the Premier League in football is 38 games. And most of the teams in Premier League football don't go through to the FA Cup final or the League Cup final. It's only 2 teams that get there, and therefore there are some teams and therefore players that might play 10, 12, 15 games in the Premier League. Now, granted, it's a 90-minute plus game, and in the NBA, basketball is a 45-minute game, a 48-minute game split into 4 quarters. However, you could be 5'11", in which case, you know, up to 6 foot, 6'1", you'd probably be the physically smallest guy on the court. Quite often a point guard. The shortest a point guard nowadays is 5'11", maybe 6 foot, and they go up to about 6'3", 6'4". There have been some very, very famous point guards that can handle the ball well, like Magic Johnson of the LA Lakers, the Dream Team Lakers. I think he was about 6'9", 6'10", but that was a rarity. Most point guards are 5'11" to 6'4". They're the generals who bring the ball up. And they're quite often, they call the shots. Now, those guys are running up and down the court on a 5-on-5 play, and they could be running in and out of, and sometimes almost around or through, guys that are up to 7'4", and some of them weigh up to 20, 21 stone. Now, that is a physiological giant. You know, you get players that leave college or leave university and get drafted into the NBA at the age of 19, 20, and they're already 6'10", 7 feet, 7'2", and they put on anything between 20 to 40 pounds throughout their NBA career, especially if they've got a long career and they need to put on that weight. So if you can imagine having to move around physical giants who can also move around quite fast as well. You know, when you watch the guys in the NBA, it's only when the camera comes down low onto the court and you get a member of the public who's invited onto the court to stand next to them, or if you see them stood next to the coach, or you know, someone interviewing them after, you realise how physically big these players are. They're not just gangly guys, all arms and legs. Some of them are, but some of those guys, you know, are as heavy as a heavy rugby player. The difference is, though, they're anything between 6'4" and 7'4". So guys who play at basketball at that level are some of the best conditioned athletes in the world in terms of team sports. Okay, they've got strength, power, endurance, flexibility, mobility, spatial awareness, proprioception, balance, eye-hand coordination. Okay, and they move in every direction: forward, back, left, right, diagonal. They rotate, they spin, they pivot around all the time, whilst they've got people equally, if not faster, than them moving around the court. And that is totally separate from the handle, the ball handle, where you've actually got to be able to handle a basketball and move it around and pass it on or take that shot. I think in the NBA, the three-point line is, I think it's 18 feet from the rim. And if memory serves me right, at that high level like that, the rim, not the net, the actual rim the ball goes through sits at about 10 feet. So I think it's 18 feet to the three-point arc and 10 feet. And I think in European or FIBA basketball, I think the three-point arc is 15 feet away. So when you see the guys from the NBA playing in the Olympic Games or the World Championships, and you think it's unfair because the American athletes, it's one of their national sports, they've got all the physiological advantages, because quite often, more often than not, those guys are superior athletes to the rest of the world basketball players. But the rest of the world, Europe, as far as Europe and Australia, Greece, Lithuania, Spain, Italy, France, those guys can also play basketball at an extremely high level as well, but often they're not as athletic as your North American basketball players. What they have got is very good basketball IQs, equal to those that play that come from the USA. So if the USA do get through to the basketball world finals, and they do get through to the Olympic gold medal, of which I think they've won almost most of them, bear in mind as well, it's not exactly the same rules in the Olympic Games or the World Championships. It's different rules. It's almost no contact, whereas in the NBA, even in today's game, they've still got quite a lot of physical contact, especially when they get to the playoffs and the finals. There's a lot at stake. There's the bragging rights of being, in the best team in the world, but also the fame and the fortune that comes with it. But of course, most of those players who play at the very highest level in college basketball, the NCAA tournaments, the Big Ten, the Big Four, the Pac-10, whatever they call it, most of them don't get drafted into the NBA. Some of them might go and play in Europe, some of them might go and play in Asia or overseas and have a career out of it, anything between a 3 to as much as an 8-9 year career. But they are physically not good enough to play at the very highest level against the world's best players, of which a lot of nowadays in today's game, the NBA itself is a multinational league. It's got some of the best players in the world from all over playing in that league. Okay, so their bodies have to be in tip-top condition year in, year out. A lot of injuries, a lot of knee injuries, back injuries, neck injuries, and of course their nutrition, their movement, and of course their coaches and their therapists have to be themselves, not just good people to work with and be around. They've got to be very knowledgeable and build a good team at the back office. So there you go. This is the book that I go to if I ever want to know anything or talk about anything to do with basketball. This is considered, as far as I'm concerned, the Bible of basketball conditioning. You can go and get yourself a copy now on eBay for like £3 or £4 or even less. There are a few copies on eBay, or go and buy a brand new shop from your local, brand new copy from your local shop. So that's it as far as basketball. This is the book that I go to. My name's Tristan Lowe, and my podcast is the Over 40s Fitness podcast with Tristan Lowe. That's me. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe or share it, and in which case if you want to ask me any questions about how to condition your body, and you haven't got to be over 40, most of the players in the NBA are between the age of 19 and 35 or even less, so feel free to contact me. And until the next time, our next discussion about all things health and fitness. Thanks for watching.